Alright guys, welcome back after our break. Let's quickly look at electricity tariffs. Okay, so what is important? Let's look at some definition and info here. I'm saying here that electricity consumption is measured in kilowatt hours, right? And there's the abbreviation that we use, kilowatt hours of electricity. Also important is that 1000 watt equals 1 kilowatt. Therefore, we should also remember that the amount of electricity used is often charged at the sliding scale, and we'll be looking at this as we move on with our lesson. Then we'll be looking at prepaid electricity cost. How do we calculate it? We take the tariff, that is now rand per kilowatt hour, multiply by the total number of units, that is now your kilowatt hours, right, of electricity. Then in terms of monthly billing, the cost, how will we calculate it? You take your service charge, plus the tariff multiply by the total number of units. That is your kilowatt hours of electricity. All right, now let's quickly see how we put all of this into context. So I gave you two notes here. I said, remember, cost equals tariff multiply by the number of kilowatt hours used. And then also, cost equals the service charge plus tariff multiply by the number of kilowatt hours used. We will look at the two in the short space of time. So I'm saying here, number one, calculate how much you must pay for the use of 50 kilowatt hours of electricity if a prepaid electricity system charges 165 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity. So here I'm going to say cost equals, right, so in this case it will be 165 cents. How many kilowatt hours did we use? 50. I'm going to say that multiply by the 50 kilowatt hours. So 1.65, 165 cents, multiply by 50. So in this case, for 50 kilowatt hours, you will have to pay 82 rand and 50 cents. Guys, I hope that is clear. Okay, I took the cost per kilowatt hours and I multiplied by the amount of units that I've used. Let's look at the second question. It says a monthly electricity bill indicates a fixed charge fee of 150 per month plus 140 per kilowatt hour of electricity used. Calculate how much you will have to pay for the use of 200 kilowatt hours of electricity. Okay, so looking at this, remember here's a fixed monthly fee. The fixed monthly fee is 150 rand plus 140 cents per kilowatt hour. So I will multiply that by the 200. Okay, so I'm quickly going to write this down, the fixed monthly charge. So I'm going to take the 140, multiply by 200. That will give us 280. Now I'm going to add the fixed monthly charge to the consumption there. So I'll take the 150 plus your 280, and that gives us a total of 430 rand. So in this case, we'll pay 430 rand for 200 kilowatt hours of electricity. Okay, let's now move on. Third example, I'm saying the following formula can be used to determine the monthly cost of electricity on electricity bill. It says, use the formula to determine the cost of 525 kilowatt hours of electricity on a 60 amp circuit breaker. Now, here's the formula given to you, right? And I normally believe whenever there's a formula involved, start with your formula. Step 2, you substitute into that formula. Step 3, you simplify. And then step number 4, you write your final answer with the correct unit. Okay, so what is our formula? We are saying cost equals, that's for electricity, 5 rand 50 multiplied by S. Now let's see, S is the size of the circuit breaker, right? Plus, we also have then 1 rand 50 multiplied by E. And what does E represent? E is the number of kilowatt hours of electricity. So now, formula is there, let's substitute. So I'm going to say 5 rand 50 multiply, what does S represent? The size of the circuit M, so that will be 60 as indicated here. Plus 1 rand 50 multiply by E is the number of kilowatt hours of electricity, and we indicated that's 525, so multiply by 525 kilowatt hours of electricity. Can you see? So step 1, formula. Step 2, you substitute into your formula. Step number 3, now I'm going to simplify by using my calculator. First of all, I'm going to say 550 multiply by 60. Here, if I simplify this part, it will give me 330 rand. I'm going to simplify the second part now as well by saying 1.50 multiply by 525. So that gives us a total of 787 rand and 50 cents. And now I'm going to add the two amounts together. So all in all, you'll have to pay 1,117 rand and 50 cents. Guys, I hope that is clear. Let's look at another example. At 3.2, I'm saying an 80 amp circuit breaker is installed at a business. If a bill of 646 rand and 20 cents is received, how many kilowatt hours of electricity were used during the month? So if you look at this, look at the difference between the two sums. The previous example, I gave you the usage. You had to calculate the amount to be paid. Now, this time around, we're giving you the bill. We are saying this is what is paid, right? How many, right? Now we're looking for how many kilowatt hours of electricity were used. Okay, so remember step 1, formula. So let me write down formula. Cost of electricity equals 5.50 rand multiplied by S plus 1.50 rand multiplied by E. Okay, step 2, let's substitute. Now looking at what was given to us. So I know the cost for this bill is 646 rand and 20 cents. So I'm going to substitute it into where I see cost, right? 646 and 20 cents equals to 5.50 multiplied by S. What does S represent? It's your 80 amp. So I'm going to say multiply by 80 plus 1.50 multiply by E. And remember, I'm solving for E. I'm looking for this value, right? E represents the number of kilowatt hours of electricity. Therefore, I keep it as is. So now I'm going to keep the 646 rand and 20 cents. And I'm going to simplify the values in bracket by saying 5.50 multiplied by 80. This gives us 440 rand. Plus, this I will keep exactly the same, 150 multiplied by E. Okay, so now I'm going to make E the subject of the formula. And I'm going to write there at the bottom. So I'm going to keep this by saying 150 multiplied by E equals to, so as soon as I do this, I take the 646 this here, I take it to the right-hand side of my equation. So I say 646 and 20 minus the 440 that I already have on the right-hand side. Okay, so let's simplify that value. So I'm going to say 646 rand and 20 cents minus 440 rand. So that will give us an amount of 206 rand and 20 cents. Here I still have 1.50 multiplied by E. Okay, so now I'm going to calculate what E should be. So therefore I'm going to leave E alone here. Okay, as soon as I do that, I'm going to take 206 rand 20 cents and I'm going to divide it by the rate. Remember, normally we'll say the rate multiplied by the usage. Now I'm doing the inverse operation by dividing it with the rate of 1 rand 50 cents. Okay, so take out 206 rand 20 cents, divide by 1 rand 50. So therefore, E, and I'm going to write it here for you, equals to 137,4666667. So I'm going to round this, okay, to say 137, remember that 6 repeats itself, and let's round it to 2 decimal places for this example. And remember, this is now not rand, but kilowatt hours of electricity, because you calculated E. All right, guys, let's quickly look at one last example. I'm saying here, number 4, the table shows the Drakensberg local municipality domestic electricity tariffs. Calculate the amount paid for using 500 kilowatt hours of electricity. Now here you can see also all tariffs are 15% exclusive of VAT. Then we work in blocks. So what happens here with the rate? As you can see, the more kilowatt hours you use, the more expensive the rate becomes. So what are we saying through this? In block number 1, I'm allowed to use up to 50 kilowatt hours of electricity at a cheaper rate of 0.9015 per kilowatt hour. So I'm going to say 50 multiplied by 0.9015, right, rands per kilowatt hours to see what I'll pay for the first 50 kilowatt hours. So I'm going to say 50 multiplied by 0.9015 as indicated there. So for the first 50 kilowatt hours of electricity, they will charge me 45 Rand, okay, and basically 8 cents. But I will round off at the end now. Then if I look in block number 2, here we already calculated for the first 50 kilowatt hours. So in essence here, you are allowed to use 300 kilowatt hours. How did I get to 300? 350 minus that first 50 we already paid for at this specific rate. Okay, so therefore here, I'm going to say 300 kilowatt hours of electricity multiplied by 1,0161 equals, I'm using the rate in block 2. So let's see what it will cost. 300 multiplied by 1.0161. Okay, so if I do this for here, block 2, I'll have to pay 304.83. So 304.83 cents. So remember, it must be for 500 kilowatt hours. So if I look at this, so far we've up to 350. So therefore I must move on to block number 3. Block number 3 is between 350 and 600 kilowatt hours. But now remember, so far we've used 350. So now to get from 350 to 500, we only will pay for 150 kilowatt hours of electricity. Remember, if you add this together, it will give you your 500. What is the rate in block number 3? I multiply the 150 with 1,3594. Let's see what that will give us. So 150 multiplied by 1.3594. This gives us an amount of 203 Rand and 91 cents. So now let's quickly add all of this together. And remember, it's excluding VAT. So therefore, the first amount, 45.075 plus 304 Rand and 83 cents plus 203 Rand and 91 cents. So as soon as I simplify this, let me just double check my answer. 45.075 plus 304.83 plus 203.91, and that gives me a total of, all in all, 553 Rand. And I'm going to write it like this first. Now I'm going to round it, money rounded to 2 decimal places, 553 Rand and 82 cents. So that is our amount without VAT. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. Please work every day, stay safe out there, and yes, join me next time. See you soon.